Did you ever have that thing you were just waiting on to change and then it just never did? Like maybe you thought for sure this weather is gonna, change. It's not gonna be so hot or so cold, and then just kept going on and on and on. You just never did the thing you were planning to do. Or maybe you're waiting for that item that you're like, I'm gonna wait for this is on sale. You didn't buy and didn't buy, and then it's sold out. Well, that's how I feel about real estate right now. Is there's so many people out there waiting and waiting and waiting for this market to change, for some drop to happen, and it just isn't occurring. I'm going to share with you today the latest numbers in the Atlanta metro market, as well as why it looks like we're probably 5 years or more out before we see any real significant change in terms of a drop in the market. So despite all the people that keep commenting month after month after month of me doing these videos, and I put something out and they say, oh, it's about to crash, or the thumbnails with all the flames that people love to put in them. Yeah, just don't think it's happening anytime soon. Share numbers, and we're doing it right now. Let's do it. We're going to dive into the Atlanta metro market, but before we do, let's talk a little bit of information that's out there right now. Should you buy? Maybe should you rent? If you're moving here or you've been here for a while and just still trying to figure out if you're going to make that move. Well, nationally is a little bit different than right here in Atlanta, but we can see some of the same trends. If you're trying to figure out whether to rent or buy, if you look nationally, yes, you're going to see the national numbers and a lot of articles coming out saying that rent is cheaper than buying, and that gap is even further than it's ever been before. However, I did take a look here in Atlanta, and that gap's a lot more narrow than you think. That gap continues to narrow, and it's not because of housing prices going down. Matter of fact, they're going up, but so is the rent. So if we look nationally, I came across this article here that you'll see that the disparity between buying and renting has never been higher. Buying right now, on average, we're talking about $2,697 per month nationally, versus renting, we're talking about $1,845 per month. Also came across this number here nationally, and that's over the last 4 years that mortgages have nearly doubled from 4 years ago to now. That is a crazy amount of money to jump from just 4 years ago. Way more than what we've seen with just inflation. When it comes to housing affordability, affordability is near historic lows, meaning it's so hard to afford anything out there right now. And if we're talking about the median income you need to buy the median priced home in the US, we're seeing that the average income needed to afford a median priced home here in the US is now $114,627, and that's up 15% from last year, and up 50% nearly since the pandemic began. So with all that great optimism there, let's jump into the Atlanta numbers. And as we see here, this is a year over year look at the numbers back in May 2023 to May of 2024. And we're going to see that the number of actives is up. That's good. You would think that when you have more homes on the market and the number of pendings is down, so less people buying, maybe prices would go down, but that's definitely not the case. Matter of fact, we compare last year to this year, we've gone up 5.6%, and we're now at a median sales price of $475,000. And if we hold there on that number real quick, what I decided to do, since we just talked about renting versus buying, is I took the median sales price of a Metro Atlanta home and broke it down in a mortgage calculator to see, okay, what are we talking about when it comes to monthly payments? And that's everything. That's your mortgage, your insurance, your property taxes, all of it thrown together if we're talking about a 20% down home. So you put 20% down on a home, what would your mortgage be? And your mortgage is going to be $3,053 per month. And then I said, hey, well, let's find a similar home, find a $475,000 home, and figure out what that would rent for. And so started comparing, and I looked around, and I kept seeing this kind of over and over again, that they were a little bit closer than what we saw just a few minutes ago with the national average. And so when we look at the Atlanta prices, a home that would sell for $475,000, that 20% down, we're talking about $3,053 per month. That would rent for a price of $2,650 per month. So we are talking about a $400 difference, which obviously is a big difference, but it's a little bit closer than what we've seen on a national average. So again, rent prices continue to go up in Metro Atlanta. Home prices do as well, but that gap is narrowing. For the longest time, it used to be that actually owning a home was cheaper than renting a home. That switched definitely in the pandemic, and we're starting to see those come back together a little bit closer. Now, if you really want to get an idea for you, break down your own numbers, I found this great calculator. I think I've mentioned this a few times before, but if you go to the New York Times has a rent versus buy calculator that is really great to use. I'm going to put a link below here in the description so you can click on that and take a look at it. I saw someone mention that they came across one that you had to pay for it now, or have a subscription to the New York Times. I don't have a subscription to the New York Times, and I got on here and got to use this calculator. So go ahead and use it. It's kind of cool. You can move the numbers around for the purchase price, how much you're putting down, what rent would be for the same home in the area, move it around. And basically what it does is it calculates it all and puts a little box on the right hand side. You'll see here that you'll see renting versus buying, what's best to do. And so you can break this down. One thing to consider though is when you're using this type of calculator is the money you're saving from renting, are you taking that money and actually investing it? So that's where the opportunity cost comes on this calculator. So are you investing it somewhere, or are you just spending it? And that's the big thing with purchasing a home versus renting a home. Is unfortunately for most Americans, we're very consumeristic, and any money we have, we usually don't invest it. We usually don't put it towards retirement. We usually go spend it on something. So the only way this makes sense for you to really break down and do and use is if you're actually looking at renting versus buying and investing the money you're saving. If you're not going to do that, then buying sometimes is a lot better because you're kind of forcing yourself to invest in a home and put equity there. Which is actually good for most people. But if you're savvy and you're actually looking to invest, then this calculator would be very helpful for you to be able to use. Now, one thing I found when I kept playing around with this calculator, I kept putting in different home prices that I saw in neighborhoods and how much they were renting for. And this occurred over and over again. There's a button on here that you can shift back and forth, or a scale that you can shift back and forth, that is how many years you plan on staying in the home. And I saw this over and over again. Now, in some of the research I've been doing when it comes to national look at it, that typically came 10 to 15 years in a home. Like, advisors are saying, hey, if you're going to buy and really get the value out of the home, you need to stay at least 10 to 15 years. I noticed here in Atlanta when I was putting these numbers in, that number was more like 7 to 10 years. Okay, so since the rent and purchasing a home are so close in the mortgage payment versus renting, that it looks like here in Atlanta that number goes down. But again, if you're looking to purchase a home, you really need to be thinking 7 to 10 years. And that's the break even. That's the, whether you rent or you buy, that's about where you break even. Doesn't really matter which one you do. But after you stay 7 to 10 years and beyond, this is where buying makes more sense right now here in Atlanta, the metro Atlanta area. So that's a big thing to consider is, are you planning on staying at wherever you're going to purchase at for longer than 7 to 10 years. Hey, if you're watching this and finding this information valuable, hey, give me that thumbs up and hit that subscription button. Make a comment below. It always helps out the algorithm so I can keep making these videos for you. Jumping back into the Atlanta numbers, you'll see here that 4,031 homes sold this past month. And percent failure rates is at 27.7%. So a little more than 1/4 of the homes are not selling. They go off the market. And then either someone puts it back on the market or they just stay put. But the question is okay, we saw a significant increase in the number of homes available this year versus last year at this time, jumped by 60%. We saw the number of solds be pretty much the same. The number of contracts, the pending ratio actually is lower by 6%. Typically that would mean you have less people buying, more homes on the market. The prices should go down. That's not what we saw. It's pretty easy to understand why. Even though we've had an increase in the number of homes on the market, less people buying, our inventory is still at 2.2 months. And so even when you have an occurrence where less of an item is selling and there's more of it, doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a drop in the price of that item. There is still not enough inventory available, which is causing these home prices still to stay high. Also, what I typically seem to be seeing is Home sellers, they're putting their homes reasonably priced now, but whatever they put it at, they're really sticking with their guns, it seems like, on staying in or around that home value until someone comes in and offers them a good enough price to sell. And then we look at days on market, and this kind of shows too. Still, we're talking about 18 days on market for the median days on market. So that's a little more than 2 weeks. That's still super fast for things selling. So we're still hitting that seasonality of the spring and summer market here in Atlanta. Homes are still going pretty quickly. Real quick here, throw up the 6 month trend here. So what's been happening in the last 6 months? And again, from back in December all the way here to this last month when our numbers came in, we can see the increase in the number of active homes, the increase in the number of pending homes, and the increase in the number of sold. So the seasonality obviously hits in the spring and summertime. June, we're probably going to see that same thing. July, usually it evens out, maybe it starts to tick down. August typically is where you see a drop in the numbers because schools start back up. September, we'll see that drop kind of stay down, and then October, we'll see it kind of bump back up for October, November, kind of into December, start going down, then we'll hit that winter season again. So again, we're back definitely into seasonality in terms of the real estate market. So typical in terms of that, still atypical in terms of the number of homes available, but we're starting to inch our way up, but we still haven't gotten there yet. So again, you can take a look at this chart on the screen, see the same numbers, see the increase we've seen month over month. And the next chart we're going to look at here is our months of supply. So I told you that our median months of supply is still 2.2 months. This breaks it down into different pricing categories here and areas. Interesting enough, look at that, from 600 to 700,000 is actually only 1.9 months of inventory. So a little unusual there for having something in the higher range to have less months of inventory. But those numbers, there's not that much less. Anyways, and if really, we're still only seeing a buyer's market at over $3 million, balanced market between 2 and 3. So there's just not a lot of deals available. It is what it is. One thing I will say is if you're looking to purchase a home, I really think right now, if you can do it, there's a number of further out from the metro area, still may be considered metro area, but further out side of the metro area, new home construction is going up like crazy in a lot of places, and you can find really nice homes, nice neighborhoods for more affordable rates. So if you A, don't mind to commute, B, maybe you're not commuting to inside metro Atlanta, but you're commuting to one of the suburbs on the outside of, or on the fringes of Atlanta area, the city of Atlanta. Maybe you're commuting to Alpharetta or maybe to the airport if you're down south of Atlanta. Then you can go a little further out. That's where you can find a little more affordability. And with this new construction, I just got a buyer under a contract and closed on it. And they actually had a deal where their interest rate was actually below 6. So I think they got it at 5.99 or something like that. So again, still not 3%. We're not getting back to 3% anytime soon, but or maybe ever in my lifetime. But with that said, 5.99%, really good house. I got a great deal on it with some closing costs all paid too. So there are the things that if you go further out, you either don't have to commute far, or maybe you're telecommuting most of the days. Maybe something you want to look at is that new construction further out, just kind of depending on what you want in a home. Also like it because you're buying a new home, you got new everything in it. So those costs to maintain a home, which is usually about 1% of whatever your home value is per year to save up, that could be delayed a little bit because your home's going to be you're going to have a 20 or 30 year roof on it, depending on the type of shingle. You got 9 to 12 years on a water heater, or around 15 years on HVAC. Now, it doesn't mean something can't go wrong early on, but you got a lot of these things you don't have to deal with for the time being because you're going brand new. So something to think about if you're looking to purchase a home, new construction that's affordable, just further out. We're talking about an hour and 15 minutes outside of Atlanta. So again, it's a little bit of ways, but Atlanta spreads so far out Lots of businesses are on the outskirts of Atlanta anyways, or more into the suburbs. So if that's what you're falling into in terms of moving here, then lots of options further out from the city. For those of you watching saying, oh, it's about to drop, we're about to see a hit in prices. Okay, I kind of started to delve into a little bit of what does it take for home values to drop, okay? And I wanted to look outside of just like World War III happens or something. If something major happens, another pandemic, then all bets are off the table, things happen. But just in normal everyday life, things that normally don't happen except once every 20, 30, 40 years. We just had our pandemic, so statistically speaking, probably not going to have a major event anytime soon. What happens to cause decrease in homes? So there's an increase in home supply, how many homes we have on the market. So what I wanted to do is look up, say, okay, we know there's a housing shortage. How much for Atlanta? How many homes in the metro Atlanta area do we need? So did a little research. Found out in 2001, there was an article that was put out that said that we were short in metro Atlanta 105,000 homes. Okay, so keep that number in mind, 105,000 homes. I was like, okay, well, the only way to fix that problem is to obviously build new homes. So I wanted to look at it and see, okay, how many new homes were being built since 2001? So I looked up what's called new home starts, so permits that were applied for, and I actually looked up the number of homes, new construction homes that were sold 2021, 2022, and 2023. Didn't look up this year because we're still halfway through it. And so what I found out is over those 3 years, we had a total of 65,440 new construction homes sold over the last 3 years. Okay, took that, averaged it out. We're talking about an average of 21,813 homes per year. So 105,000 we need. We're averaging almost 21,000 homes per year. So that's starting to look good. We should be able to hit that number of homes and catch up in the next, will they be a little more over 4 or 5 years, okay? We should hit that. However, next thing you have to factor in, we're not stagnant here, right? Populations can grow or shrink. And what's happening here at Metro Atlanta is they are predicting another 1.8 million people here by 2050 for the Atlanta area. Whew, that is a lot of people. So I just decided that to average that out. That's in 26 years. Okay, so over a 26-year period, they're predicting 1.8 million more people in Metro Atlanta. So on average, that's 69,230 more people here per year. Okay, so 69,230 more people. That's great. But how many of those would be moving into a home? Well, then I wanted to look at how many people are in a household in Atlanta. And it comes out to be that the average household only has 2 people per home. So the average home actually only has 2 people per home. So I took that 69,230, divided it by 2. So we're talking about 34,615. Got it. Well, so if 34,615 households are moving here, so that's how many houses we would need, they're not all going to buy. So then I need to define the statistic of how many people, when they relocate, are going to purchase a home. That was a much harder thing to find, but after doing some research, and this is the only number I could go off of, 27% of people that are relocating to another city said they planned on purchasing a home. Okay, so the rest are renting or moving in with someone they know. So 27% of those people moving here would want to purchase a home. So let's just take it at face value that, yes, some of those may not buy, but some of the people that didn't plan to buy may purchase a home. So what does that mean? That means that 9,346 homes are needed for the new people moving in. Not just our shortage, but the new people moving in here. So we need an extra 9,346 homes for those new people moving in. So I'm a numbers guy, so then I wanted to see, okay, if new construction homes on average over the last 3 years, we're making 21,813 new homes, right? And we were already short 105,000, but we need 9,346 of those homes to go to people now moving here. That leaves us with 12,467 homes being constructed every year to fill that gap. which means it's going to be 8.4 years to fill up enough homes to match our shortage that we already had, plus the people moving here from out of states or moving in state, but to here in Metro Atlanta. So 8.4 years, that was back in 2021. We're now 2024, so 3 years have gone by. So we're talking at least 5 years. If these numbers stay consistent, which of course there'll be variations, but we're on a trend. It's still going to take 5 years, a little more than 5 years, for us to actually meet the demand for homes. We're to have that supply enough. So are we talking about a crash in the market? Nope. Still have too few homes. Are we going to have enough homes to supply anytime soon? Well, if 5 years is soon, then sure. But we're looking at 5 years before we have enough homes. All right. So housing supply, do we have enough? Not for a while. What else could happen to cause home prices to go down? Obviously, the economy. When you have higher interest rates, that should impact home prices. However, we got all the way up to almost 8, and home prices kept on going. So that interest rates, and now they're staying around 7. I keep over this whole year, it's going to come below 6 or at 6 or below. We're going to have rate cuts. I do not see rate cuts. I've stopped believing the Fed and these predictions of 8 rate cuts, 4 rate cuts, 3. Inflation is here. It's kind of stagnated. I don't see it going down any based on what I'm seeing in home values and what I'm seeing at the grocery store and the gas pump and all the other stuff. I don't know what you're seeing, but just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to stagnate, which is not going to impact prices. Economic slowdown, jobs numbers just came up. There were 100,000 more jobs in the nation than they predicted. Every single month, the following month after numbers come out, they always reduce that. So what it's really going to be, who knows? But the rates, they'll drop below 6 a little bit, and then they pop back up. And they drop below 6, and they pop back up 7. So I'm just going to say I don't see that changing any. All right, the next thing that could help decrease home prices is government policy. This is tax incentives for people purchasing a home. These are housing programs. There's a lot of housing programs already in place. And I like housing programs, don't get me wrong, they could be helpful. But most housing programs are, hey, we'll help you with a down payment of $10,000, maybe even $15,000. That's awesome. I mean, for a person that's on the edge of being able to buy a home, but they just don't have a down payment, that's great. That really doesn't bring down the monthly payments. So that's going to help a few people that are on the edge, but that's not even close to helping the amount of people we need helped with the home shortage. And that extra money is great, but unless you have $100,000 you're helping somebody out with, just not going to help out enough. Now, the next thing is kind of a more local government policy / market dynamics, and it's this. Can you put higher taxes on investment properties? Now, this kind of goes depending on how you feel about this, of your philosophy of a free market economy. I don't like that idea necessarily personally, especially for the mom and pop that have, 1 or 2 investment homes that help with retirement. With that said, the crazy statistic here for Atlanta is 11% of the rental homes are actually owned by only 3 companies here in Metro Atlanta. So there's 3 big companies that own 11,000 plus homes here in Metro Atlanta that are all rental properties. Again, I'm not necessarily against that, but it definitely impacts the number of homes that would be available for someone to purchase if they're gobbling them all up and renting them out. That's kind of slowed down some with the housing prices still going up and the rent prices not meeting those yet. But that's something that could happen. It's not. Next thing that can impact housing is population decline. Population goes down, there's more houses available, you can sell them. However, Metro Atlanta just said population is looking to go up by 1.8 million. Population is not declining here. And the last thing that can help with housing prices are like business innovations, tech innovations, modular homes, 3D printed homes, tiny homes, these things like this that are popping up here and there. Those haven't caught on enough to really drive down prices. The other thing that can happen is the government can rezone or make zoning easier. I know I saw a proposal in a couple cities in Georgia that talked about this to drive down prices, because inside the city There'll be places where they just don't allow the zoning for multifamily housing. And it could be, especially with the commercial, and I think this could be something that happens, is in the commercial market. A lot of commercial businesses and people that have, the high-rise businesses, there's a lot of those that aren't being rented out because there's a lot more telecommuting. There's businesses that need half the space they used to need, and those spaces are sitting empty. And so what they've talked about is trying to take those buildings and turn them into housing now, whether it be rentals like apartments or for condos. But that takes rezoning and new permitting. And if cities could be more innovative with that, drive those prices down, make those into spaces to live at, then that could be a big filler in terms of housing that's available. And even if it's apartments or condos, the more housing you have available, the more pressure it puts on whether you're buying or selling to lower those prices if you have enough available. So that's some ways to do it. With all that said, what are we seeing here in Atlanta? Well, we haven't seen an increase in supply enough. We've seen some, but again, probably 5 years before we see enough. Economy's going well. Businesses are thriving here. And the rates, even though they're high and less people are buying, there's still not enough homes on the market. So there's still a shortage of inventory. Policies, haven't really seen any policy changes that have really impacted anybody here in Atlanta or the metro Atlanta area. Population increases. So all of those things are just showing that home prices, they're going to keep increasing, or they'll stagnate maybe. Stagnation may be the best thing we could hope for at best. I have some nephews that were talking about, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to purchase a home. So talking with them, I mean, it's hard out there for those that already don't have a home. If you already have a home, it makes it a little easier because you can sell your home, and even though rates aren't as good as probably when you purchased, if you buy the next home, that hit's not as much because you're selling at a high value, and then you can purchase at a high value too. So kind of a wash except for your rates, maybe. But if you're trying to get into the market without having a home to sell, that's where it's really, really tough out there for you. And so, as we said, renting may be the best thing until you can save up. I mean, if you're really investing that money you're saving from renting, it might be longer than you want, 5-10 years down the line, but you could put a really big impact on a down payment for a home that then it could be affordable to purchase. Maybe you go in with 3 or 4 people that purchase a home. I know that could be tough if 3 or 4 people that are single, what if you get married or anything like that? Figure out something or a way to get out of that or buy each other out of your amount of the home. You can put some creative things in there to get around this housing crisis. Maybe you purchase a home and then rent out rooms. Maybe that's a way that you can make it affordable for yourself. So different ways to strategize around that. If you're looking to purchase a home here in Atlanta, the metro Atlanta area, I'd love to talk with you more and brainstorm around the possibilities of you purchasing a home and maybe where would be a great place to purchase that home. And of course, if you have any questions about this video, these numbers, drop a comment below or give me a call, shoot me, texting me an email. I'd love to talk with you more about these numbers, making a purchase here in Atlanta or the metro Atlanta area. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.